Paperless-NGX is a self-hosted document inbox that lets you drop in PDF scans, automatically runs OCR, organizes with tags and correspondence, and then makes the whole thing searchable so when you need a specific page, you're not digging through folders like it's 2006. And because it's self-hosted, it puts you back in control of your data. Your documents stay on your hardware under your rules. No uploading personal paperwork into ChatGPT or some random cloud service just to get indexed. In this video, we're doing a full repeatable setup with Docker. We'll get Paperless up and running first, and then we'll optionally add some local AI with Ollama and show what's actually worth using once everything's set up. Also, there's a full step-by-step guide linked in the description, including the exact compose files and .env files we're going to use today. So what are we setting up then? We're setting up Paperless-NG for document storage with some baseline OCR. We're going to use Ollama as our local AI engine. We'll then use Paperless-AI for tagging, titles, metadata, and suggestions. Then we'll bring in Paperless-GPT for a vision model OCR, and this is a huge upgrade for OCR accuracy. I know that was a lot of information, but think of it like this. Paperless-NGX is the filing cabinet. It stores, indexes, and searches. Ollama is the local brain. It runs our models. Paperless AI and Paperless-GPT are add-ons that plug into Paperless that improve metadata, and in the case of Paperless-GPT, it improves OCR. And just to be clear, all of the AI is optional. Paperless-NGX works perfectly fine on its own. If you just want local document management and basic OCR, you can stop there and you'll have a great setup. All right, so let's jump into the compose stack. Here's my Paperless stack, and I'm using it with Postgres instead of SQLite. You might be wondering why I'm using Postgres. Well, it scales a little bit better if you start building a really big library. You'll notice that Paperless is also depending on a few other services in this stack. One of them is Redis, an in-memory database. Another one is Gutenberg, which is new to me, but this helps convert documents to PDFs. The next is Tika, which extracts metadata from those documents that you want to bring into Paperless. Then we have Ollama, which helps manages our local LLMs. Then we have Open WebUI, which helps us manage Ollama, which helps us manage our local LLMs. Then we have two of our AI services for Paperless. We have Paperless-AI, and then we have Paperless-GPT. Last but not least is Dazzle. I usually include this in all of my stacks, but it's a web UI to see all of your container logs, which is super helpful when troubleshooting. You can see I've exposed a couple of ports on here. We have Paperless-NGX on 8000. Then we have Paperless-AI on 3000. Then we have Open WebUI on 3001. Paperless-GPT on 3002. And then Dazzle running on port 8080. Also, if you couldn't tell already, I have a .env per service so that not all services have access to all of the secrets. To bring the stack up, all we need to do is docker compose up-d. To see if all the containers are running, you can run a docker ps and check there, or you can go out to Dazzle and see all of your containers are running. So now we want to go into Open WebUI. So once we get to Open WebUI, we'll want to get started and then we'll need to create an account. So let's create our admin account. So to download a model, go to your profile, then go to admin panel, then go to settings, and then go to models. Here we want to pull a model from ollama.com. I found that Llama 3.2 3B works pretty good and it's a good starting point. So let's pull that one down. All right, so we have that model pulled down. Let's test it really quick with chat just to confirm it responds. Tell me a joke. Okay, so we see a response. That's a good sign. That means the model is loaded and working. If you ever want to do a sanity check on your GPU and make sure that your server's using it, you can remote into your server and run mv top. And then if you go back to chat and have it output some more information, other than my UPS going off because it's drawing a lot of power, you can see that it's actually using my GPU here. Now let's check on Paperless-NGX. So when we get to the initial startup screen, we'll have to create an admin account and then we'll sign in. And congratulations, we now have Paperless-NGX running. We'll come back to Paperless here in a second, but let's set up Paperless-AI. And in order to set up Paperless-AI, we need an API token from Paperless first. So to get our token from Paperless-NGX, we can go into our profile. And if we click into here and we generate one, we can get one right here. Now let's copy this API token And let's paste it into our paperless-AI.env file right into the Paperless API token. You also want to update your username, mine's admin. And then while we're here, you just want to make sure that your Ollama model that you pulled down within Ollama matches here. And I used Llama 3.23b. And the rest of this, outside of time zone, you can leave the way it is. Let's restart our paperless stack now so we can get the new EMVs. Let's go to Paperless API now, and I'm checking here to see what port it's running on, and it's running on port 3000. Okay, once we get here, we'll need to set up a user account as well. So we'll set up our user account here. For connection settings, you'll want to enter the Paperless API URL, and in this stack, it's going to be in the service Paperless, port 8000, and then /API. And then for API token, you're going to grab that API token that we just got from Paperless, and you're going to want to paste it into here, and then enter your Paperless user in here. For AI settings, the same thing we talked about in that .env. We're going to use Ollama. We're going to set the Ollama URL, and we're going to set it to the service name within our compose stack, which is just Ollama. The model that we're using, a token limit and token response. I'm not going to adjust any of these. The default values work fine for me. In the advanced settings, you can choose whether or not you want to use existing correspondence and tags, and that's related to tags within Paperless-NGX. You can set your scan interval time, so how often Paperless AI is going to check for new documents. If you want to process only specific pre-tagged documents, if you want to add an AI process tag to the documents, so after these documents are processed, do you want to add a tag to these documents? Do you want to use specific tags and prompts, whether or not you want to include tags in your prompts that you'll see below? And then whether or not you want to disable automatic processing, and that will shut everything down without having to go and uncheck everything. This right here is just a toggle to basically say, don't do anything to my documents. And then whether or not you want to use these AI features. So do we want to assign tags to it? I do. Do we want to detect correspondence within the data? Yeah, I do. Document type classification, title generation, and then custom fields if you want. You can add some additional fields, say for instance, total amount if you were scanning invoices, and you could say that that would be a integer, and you would add an integer. And then when scanned, if the LLM can see a total amount in there, it might be able to plug that value into that custom field. Last but not least, there is a prompt, and this is the prompt that we're going to give the LLM in order to process the documents. Right now it doesn't have one. I would use the example prompt by clicking on that button, and it's going to fill in a pretty good prompt that should be tailored exactly to Paperless-NG. Now, if you need to tweak anything, you definitely can in here. This is a lot better prompt than I could ever write, so I'm going to keep this one in here. Let's go to save. And it saved my configuration, and every save you do, it's going to reset the UI. But we're done for now in Paperless AI. So now let's go back to Paperless and upload a few documents. So I generated a few sample documents, some documents of, say, devices with serial numbers, some sample invoices, along with some tax information and some receipts. I tried to generate a variety of documents to see how Paperless would handle these. To upload documents, you can either click this button or you can drag and drop them into this area. So let's drag them into here. Now, all of these documents are uploading. And if we go into documents, we can see them. If we click into the document, we can see some of the metadata about this document. And this one hasn't been processed with AI at all. It's only been imported into Paperless-NGX, and we've got some OCR. So if we look at some of the metadata like title, this is based on the file name. And then we don't have a lot of information here. We don't have the correspondent. We don't have document types, and we don't have any tags right now. If we go into content, we can see some of the information that was extracted out using OCR. So you can see it did a pretty good job, but this was a PDF and this information was text already. You see it's selectable, but it did a pretty good job outside of this right here. Refund your refund or ERT balance. I think it's getting really confused on this test data, not a tax return right here. And then we see XR here with $0. And then if we go into metadata, this is pretty standard metadata. This is just metadata it got from either the document or by doing a checksum off of it or looking at the document types. But nothing interesting to see in here, nothing in notes and nothing in history. So let's look at one of these other documents where you can see that OCR isn't the greatest. Say, for instance, I go into this made-up sample image of this camera. You can see, we have a title, and the title, again, is just the file name. If we go into content, we can see where it actually did some OCR, or didn't really do some OCR. Now, I'm not poking fun at Paperless itself. This is just the OCR library, I guess, that it's using. But you can see it didn't do the greatest job. And this is a made-up image with this text printed over. Like, this is as clear as text as it could possibly be. But you can see the model is X2000. Then it goes to serial number and screener, and then who knows what it's doing here. It just said nothing. It gave up here. And then I think on the FCC, it did this symbol, maybe. Well, that's probably the symbol right here. It got made in Japan, and somehow it got $WS. So, and then tilde dash, where I have no idea where that came from. So you can see that OCR itself isn't the greatest. We're going to see if we can improve this, but just remember this OCR right here. But now that we have Paperless AI running, let's hop over to there and process some of these images and enhance our metadata. So if we go back to Paperless AI on our dashboard, we can see that it's now seeing 14 of those documents. Now, if you don't see your documents, you can say scan now, and it will go out to Paperless-NGX and scan for those new documents. But now it has 14 documents ready to process. Now, if it's not processing any of your documents, it might be because you have this setting turned on in here where it says process only specific pre-tagged documents. And if you said yes, and you would give it a tag like process AI documents, it would look for those tags and process those. I'm going to say no because I just wanted to process everything. And then let's save our configuration. And the UI is going to refresh here in a second. We should see this start processing. So if we go back to documents, you can see it's starting to process these documents. So it's processed 2 already. It's getting a new document. It's scanning it. I can actually hear my GPU, like the electrical noise when it scans this document. It's pretty wild because it's making a noise almost like it's scanning it. I know it's not, but just the electrical noise it's making is pretty awesome. Okay, so it processed all of my documents really fast. It did say 1 processed, and I refreshed, and it was already done. So all 14 have been processed, and we can see we have some information about this document. So let's actually hop back to Paperless-NGX really quick just to see how it enhanced this document, and then we'll come back to some of these features here. So if we go back to Paperless-NGX and we go into our documents, now this is really lit up with a lot more information. So just going back into this camera picture, you can see I have a lot more information about it. So it automatically added some tags like electronics, Japan, made in Japan, X2000. It determined that from this picture, this is probably product information. If we go into content, you can see that it's still not the greatest. It's still using the OCR that it had because Paperless AI doesn't enhance the image content based on a vision model. If we go into metadata, that kind of looks the same. Notes, history, we actually get some more information about what was happening and what got updated from Paperless AI, which is pretty cool. And you can see the title itself got updated too to X2000. I think all of these were based on the file name. And then if we go back out to all of our documents, you can see that, hey, now I have some titles. So this Minnesota, tax return, not really my tax return. You can see I got a document type of tax return. It recognized a correspondent in this document as Minnesota State. That's, I guess, who it would have been from. It would have been the IRS of Minnesota, but easy enough to fix or figure out. For some reason, it thinks that the correspondent in this one is Amazon, which I guess could make sense. They might think that this is, I don't know, a receipt or something like that, or product information. I don't know why I chose Amazon, but it was a good guess. And so this is a really good example of how Paperless AI just enhanced all of these documents just by scanning it and feeding it through an LLM. But one other cool thing you could do with Paperless AI is actually to chat about your documents, right? So if I wanted to look at where was my Minnesota tax return, my fake one? If I wanted to look at this and say, how much did I earn this year? And then here we go. It actually answered it pretty quick. It said my wages for tax year 2025 were $65,978. We go back to the document itself. Was that true according to this fake return? And yeah, it was. It was. Did pretty good. I mean, yeah, probably my adjusted gross, but did really good. So if I wanted to do rag chat with all of my documents, I just index them, and now they're all indexed. And so now it knows about all of those documents, or at least it can go and retrieve information about those documents as I ask questions. So I could say, what is the total across all invoices? Because there were a few sample invoices in there. I could say, what's the total across all invoices? And it's saying that the total is $8,211.09. Now we could, yeah, I was going to say we can go and look, but they're right here. And so it was able to pull up all of these, fake invoices and look at them and look at the total. So pretty cool. You could do rag chat here if you want. Paperless AI did a pretty good job processing my documents, and it did a good job with titles and labels, but it really didn't do anything for OCR text quality. And for me, that's top priority. If my content is wrong, well, then search is wrong, and then I'm back to hunting for documents like I did before. So that's when I started looking for a better OCR option. That's when I found Paperless-GPT. The reason this stood out to me was it can use OCR using an LLM, especially vision models. So instead of traditional OCR guessing at pixels, the model can actually understand what it's looking at. On my test documents, the test extraction was dramatically better. Now, Paperless-GPT has a lot of options. I configured a lot of them already. You'll want to make sure that you have your API token. Your LLM provider is going to be Ollama. You'll want to set your LLM model for this as well. I'm using the same one, Llama 3.2 3B. Then you'll want to make sure you set your OCR provider as LLM, and then your Vision LLM provider is Ollama, and then you'll want to choose a Vision LLM model, which is minicpm-v. Minicpm-v is an LLM. It's a multimodal LLM, meaning you can give it an image or you can give it text and get text back out. And this one's really good. I used it for a little while and I'm really impressed. But it's really high performing. It's pretty small. It's pretty accurate for getting data or text out of images. So this is the one that they recommend, and so I kind of stuck with it. A lot of these variables in here are the default. I only put them here so I understood what I could change. But while we're in here, we actually need to download this model right here. So the minicpm-v, we'll need to download this in Ollama. So back in Open WebUI, we're going to go to the admin panel, go to settings, and then go to models. And then let's pull this new model. And the model is minicpm-v, and it's the 8 billion parameters. So let's pull this model. Once that's downloaded, now let's go out to Paperless-GPT, which should be on port 3002. Once we get to Paperless-GPT, it's a pretty basic UI, but you don't really need to use it all that much, which is okay. But you can see on the home page, it's actually looking and scanning for all documents that have this tag of Paperless-GPT manual, which we don't have any. In here, we can do ad hoc analysis on some of our documents, what we see with Paperless-GPT. We can see a log or history of the documents that it's processed. We could see some additional settings, which these are all of our prompts. And if you want to adjust these prompts, I've actually mapped them inside of our stack. So if you want to manually edit these prompts, you can. I'm not going to change any of the prompts, nor have I yet. Here in OCR is where you can do OCR on individual documents if you wanted to test this out. So let's test it out really quick, and then we'll process some automatically. So this is asking for our document ID. If we go back to Paperless and then we go into our documents, let's select this document right here. That was, this camera image. And let's select its document ID, which is right here in the URL. So this is document ID of 5. And let's look at the content again, just to make sure, see the content. It's still that OCR content. Back in Paperless-GPT, let's just paste that document ID of 5. And then let's submit a scan job. It's actually really fast. And here's the combined OCR result. You can see now that this is a lot better than it was before, but let me actually save the content so we can go compare within Paperless-NGX. So let's save the content back to that document. Let's go back to our document. It's going to say, hey, it's detected changes. So let's close out of this document and then open it back up. Now let's go into content. And you can see here, one, it's in Markdown, which is pretty awesome. It actually did a lot better. So now it was actually able to pull the serial number right off here, DC456789101, made in Japan, it had before. But even this right here, it was able to see FC and then CE made in Japan. And then even made a note, the FC and CE are likely abbreviations for regulatory compliance marks, but the full meanings of these acronyms were not provided within the image. So this did a lot better when we fed this image to an LLM, a vision model, because it's able to understand what it's looking at, unlike OCR, which is just doing pixel detection. So let's see if we can find one more. Remember we had that weirdness in the tag stuff? Yeah, right here. So we had a lot of this weird text right here. And I wasn't really sure where it was coming from. Like I thought maybe it was reading some of that, and some of this was overlapped right here. So let's grab this document ID and feed it to Paperless-GPT, and let's see what it comes up with. Let's save this content back to the document. So let's go back into that document. It was document ID 14, right? 14, yeah, it's right here. So contents, hey, look at this. This is pretty cool. It actually generated Markdown too, which is pretty awesome because LLMs like Markdown. So it actually found the title, created a subtitle, created body text, created a table in Markdown. This is pretty cool. A footer, and then look at this. Additional information, sample, test data, not a tax return. And this is that text going all the way across there. And then it says note at the bottom of the page, synthetic sample document for upload/OCR testing only. And that was me. And that was here when I generated this document, and even page 1. So pretty cool, man, pretty cool stuff. This is way better than OCR. Having a vision model actually understand what it's looking at and then parse that out and even give us context around it, like these tables and markdowns, pretty cool. So you're probably thinking, well, that's a lot of work. I don't want to grab the ID every time, and then every time I upload one, have to go there and give it the ID. You don't have to do that, and you can create a quick workflow just like this. So if you wanted to create a workflow, you could. I'm just going to call this on upload. And so a trigger of upload. So every time we added a new document, what are we going to do? We're going to take an action here. We're going to apply an action. And what we're going to do is we are going to assign tags. And we don't have these tags yet, but those tags were in our .env. And so the tags I want to apply to this are Paperless-GPT OCR auto. And so if I apply this tag to those documents when they're uploaded, then Paperless-GPT will automatically do OCR on them. Now you can also do Paperless-GPT auto, which we'll put in there too, which is going to tell Paperless-GPT to also process the document titles and stuff like that. So let's get the OCR out of the way. We actually need to create this title and be very, we can't create the title. Okay. So let's actually create this tag first. Create this tag. Here's one. Let's create the other tag while we're at it too. We want to create this tag also. All right, so now let's go back into our workflow. And on a workflow, I'm going to say on document add, totally developer name, trigger, and then what's going to happen, document added, and then our action is going to be to assign a tag. We'll assign 2 of these tags, so we'll do GPT auto and we'll do GPT auto OCR. So this is going to process tags, titles, and also OCR too. So let's save. Oh, sort order. It should just set one for me. Anyways, sort order is 1. It's the only one we have. Okay, so let's go into documents. Let's upload one more test document. Let's upload this random diagram. You can see it had one of the tags. And now both tags are gone. So let's find this document again. Let's clear out of here. Their menuing is a little bit weird. The only problem is when it converts the document and even the title, you're kind of left like figuring out what you just uploaded. I just searched for diagram and it came up, which was pretty interesting because I couldn't find there. Designing a scalable web service architecture. That's actually exactly what I was diagramming. That's pretty interesting. That's exactly what I was diagramming and trying to show to someone in Discord. So designing a scalable web service architecture. That's exactly what I was designing, and I didn't even say what it was. Pretty cool. Let's see, in content, here we go. It's a diagram, some web service, arrow pointing down labeled user. Yeah, this is pretty good. Arrows connecting various components, so database clustered. 3 boxes connected by arrows in the database cluster. Yeah, that is kind of right. Object storage cluster. Yep, 2 circles and 1 box connected by arrows. It's actually 3 circles, but this is pretty good. So this is what it pulled out now using both Vision and the LLM. So we got titles, we got some tags of IT services. Correspondent is Amazon, I don't know, AWS likes Amazon for some reason. And then we got some content out of it too. So really, really cool stuff. So that's the full setup. Paperless-NGX is the core, Ollama and Open WebUI for local AI, Paperless AI for metadata suggestions, and Paperless-GPT for vision model OCR you can trust. If you want to copy this exactly, check out the description for links to all of the documentation. I hope you enjoyed this video on Paperless-NGX. I'm Tim. Thanks for watching.